Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you are well versed on Islamic apologetics these days, you may know that the Salafi and Athari beliefs are the most common ones that are discussed within the West by Western Muslims. Whether it is the majority belief of most Sunni Muslims, however, is another story entirely, which we will save for another time. What is known, though, is that most people who interact with Islam within the West will almost always run into these dawah bros, as they're called, who subscribe to these particular beliefs. I'm not here today to go against how diverse Islamic views hold certain beliefs. Rather, my goal here is to point out a significant problem within the Salafi movement's theological perspective on God. When you ask a Salafi a question, if I were to ask you, where is God? What would you say? You will receive the following answer: above the throne, above creation, or some other variant of this. When you ask, is this literal or metaphorical in terms of the location? The Salafi will reply, it is literal. This is where the problem comes in. The Salafi has accidentally put himself into a major issue. He has applied a concreteness to the position of God as above or ala. This means that there is a literal, concrete position of which God occupies, rendering the space of God to no longer be a relation to creation, but rather a concrete existence. While they may claim that the idea of above is merely relational without any affirmation of spatiality to it, the problem comes in with how we define what literal means. If above is literal, yet it is not spatial or directional, then how is the idea of above being literal without it being anything other than an incoherent belief, unless you mean to say it is a metaphor? If something is literally above something else, it must exist within a dimensional relationship. This means space or direction. Space and direction are created realities. So if God literally exists in that way, we have a very big problem. We must assume, rationally speaking, the two following options. The Salafi idea of God is that he is in a created space, or the Salafi idea of God is that he is in an uncreated space. First, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. What are the consequences of these two ideas? Simple. If God is in a created space, then it means that God is contingent upon his own creation to exist, as is described by Salafi theology. It also implies that he was once outside of the space, then moved into it if the space is not an eternal creation. Both of these would affirm atheism. If he is contingent on creation, he is not God. And if he moved into creation from outside of it, it means that God changed, meaning he was not perfect, and thus he is not God. As for an uncreated space, this is even worse than atheism, as it would mean that the Salafi has affirmed that God is reliant on another necessary being. This means that the uncreated eternal space that God occupies within this theology is something that is uncreated and necessary. If both God and the space are necessary beings for creation to exist, then this means we now have two necessary existences, not one, and that would be polytheism. But don't worry, we already have the Salafi answer to this. A term they always bring up whenever there is a tension in their philosophy. Bila kaif, or without asking how. How can we possibly navigate this problem? We are doomed! But don't fret. It's actually quite simple to refute. This is just something we call special pleading. It is a logical fallacy which ascribes logic to certain points of one's theology, but when that fails, to throw one's hands up in the air and to say it is true regardless. Now to be fair, Salafis don't say God is inside space. They'll say he's above creation in a real but unknown way. But here's the issue. If it's literal yet not spatial, what does literal even mean? It means that now they have rejected the use of logic to describe their foundational beliefs. So when they use it against you, it's just special pleading. Just remember, when you hear bila kaif, it's not a mystery. It's just special pleading. Logic doesn't bend that easily.